We have new hardware to replace the door lock assembly that attaches to the inner frame of the door. Not the door, but the frame itself of the car. Uh, bought these at Lowe's, M8-1.0025s. These are basically, these are the hex insertion ones, heads, which are going to be the same as what was in there before. This looks like it's got a little bit of like gold color or something like that. See my vodka sauce I just had for my linguine shrimp dinner. Anyhow, this is new. This is new. This is really thin. You could probably make one out of a can of soda or pop if you got 10 snips in a hole punch. Basically goes inside of this rubber. Well, it's actually a plastic thing. In fact, this looks like it came off of a 3D printer machine. That'd be a perfect part to make off a 3D printer. That snaps in there. This is the door latch. I've already thrown in some of the screws. Let me just do this just to show you how it looks. Let me do this real quick. This thing would pop in there and it would get screwed into the car. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. You can see how it works. I'm going to try a Goo Gone and see if it works. Just get a little bit of this dirt. Just let it soak in. And just wipe up some of this part that doesn't really need to be gone through, but just so it doesn't drip. And if it starts discoloring, I don't want it to be hitting anything. So we're going to see how that works. Let it do its job there and then come in. I don't think it's going to do anything because it's kind of like I think it's rubbed off into the paint. No, that's like a hard rubber that got, how would you say, worked into that part. But you can see how I've got these 4 screws all the way in because they're going into a back plate, and that back plate is just hanging on by a thread, and I don't want to lose it inside the behind this. Otherwise I'm going to have to try to fish it out, and it's going to be taking off panels inside of the car, the engine bay, and all that kind of stuff. Want to avoid that, so that's why I put these screws through to hold that back plate. What I'm going to do is get like an Allen wrench, pull this screw and that other screw, the diagonals out, hold them in with the Allen wrench so that plate is in there, and then I'm going to put in screws on these 2 opposite ones diagonal, and hopefully it catches the threads. And then once I've got these 2 screws in, then I can remove everything and then do in the final 2 ones. It's easier said than done, but I'm going to go ahead and try that. So now I've got this one screw in. The back plate inside is still being held up by these other screws. So now I don't have to worry about that plate falling down. However, it might turn sideways. So I have to figure out how I want to do that. I think what I'm going to do is I'll remove this screw and then see if I could get it kind of the cinch start going. Maybe I could get this one in because there's a little distance between the back and the door, and then go from there. Okay, bye. So now you can see I'm using this Allen wrench to hold up that back plate so it's even. So now I should be able to put in these bottom ones, these bottom screws. Hopefully it works. Let me grab that. And I think it's taking hold. I'm not too sure if that grabbed it or not. I need a light, but anyhow, you get the point. And now you see I've got all three of them lined up, so hopefully this last one catches. And it does. So I think we are good to go. Before I cinch down everything, I'm gonna just basically hit them all at one time so it doesn't start torquing that plastic grommet. I want to make sure I'm probably around right there. I'm going to do this lightly and then lower the door and see if the pin on the door catches the hole up on the top, because I don't want it to rub at all. The original reason why I had to change this out was, one, the rubber was all torqued to heck and it was all shredded, and then also when the pin came down, it was hitting closer to this side and it was causing uneven wear on this thing, and then which it caused the door to get aligned, and the switches on the inside of the jamb were coming down not at a perfect angle, so it was prematurely wearing out those sensors by ripping off the rubber nodule at the tips that are supposed to catch. So hopefully putting in the shim on the backside that was missing causes this thing to come closer, and then that pin will be more on center, and hopefully I don't have any issues with the light stuff. But I think we are good to go to start doing final adjustment, lower the door, and see does it come in right on center. Okay. So one thing I noticed is when I close this door, it catches and it locks fine, but the problem is this whole assembly is riding a little bit lower. I compared it to the other door, which is I would say pretty well aligned, and this rubber grommet on the other door is just above this bend a bit. So I've got to loosen this up and slide it just a bit more, so when the door comes down, it locks right away instead of going down and then back up a bit. So I'm gonna make one final adjustment on this and I think we'll be good. Okay, so I think I've got this lined up to the top, and what I'll do is I'll just lower the door and listen to, and look at the top and see if I'm seeing it or hearing it scrape when the pin goes through. And I don't. So right there, if I lightly close it, it should catch and it shouldn't bounce. And that's what I wanted to see, is it locks. Before, this door was a little bit lower, and what that does is it misaligns everything, especially on the front of the door where there's this two sensor switches to detect that the door is open. So obviously when the door is open, there's other things that happen, like the lights. You can have the lights go on. Maybe the gas cap is tied into that. I'm not too sure. But there's other things. The security alarm might go off, etc. So this is what I wanted to see. And I'll show you a small portion of that sensor in the front that is worn out because of the door was misaligned. Okay, we're looking at the underside. These are the two door switches that I'm referencing right here. You can see these switches are supposed to be like a rubber nodule that goes around this. And if you push in, it'll send a signal to the computer, car computer, that, hey, the door is open or the door is closed. We have two of these switches. You can see on this outer side, this piece of rubber around it, it's just all worn out. And the only thing showing is this little metal nodule right at the tip. You can see it right in there. So when it strikes the plate that's on the car, like right here, you can see these two slight indentations. They're not centered. You can see when it strikes right here, it's kind of scraping up a bit, and same, not as much, but it still goes up on there. So basically these switches will get prematurely worn out if your door is misaligned. I'm thinking, so I've got two of these switches. They're really easy to remove. Just unscrew these, you pop them out and you replace them. They're cheap. They're, I don't know, probably 15-20 bucks each. So what I'm thinking of doing is, when they do come in, I've got this, I don't even know what this is. This looks like it's glued on or something like that, typical Lamborghini quality. And so what I'm thinking of doing is taking some kind of product. I'm not too sure if it's going to be grease or cesium or something. but it just dab it just a little bit on the tips. So when these sensors come down and strike these two positions, if the door happens to be misaligned and it's coming in at an angle, and then it compresses, so that way it slips a little more. So it's a little more forgiving. Instead, I think what's happening is eventually when the door gets misaligned, it comes in at such an angle, it just shreds up everything around this switch, and then eventually it just stops working. Although you can see that reflection in the mirror over there. If I push the switch, that mirror, the light goes off. Well, it was. Now it doesn't. Oh, damn son of a bitch. Yeah, because I was just noticing that when I hit this, the lights go on and off. So you can see it's intermittent, whether or not they work or not. And that's what some of the folks up on the forum said. They said if it's intermittent, that means the switch is flaky, or you got grounds and all that. But you can see it's just all worn up. So, I mean, let's get this back to the way it came out of the factory, first of all, you know. So that's what I'm going to do. The parts should be coming, and those are easy to swap out, and I'll go ahead and do that and film that also. But this strike plate, you can see it's kind of uneven striking, so I think that's what causes those switches to be to eventually wear out prematurely. I'm going to make sure that this door is aligned and see how long it goes before they flake out again. Hopefully it's not that bad. But if you think about it, the passenger sides, those rarely go out in terms of the switches. And it's because that door isn't used as often as someone that drives the vehicle. So it's just natural wear and tear. But if you keep these doors aligned properly, I think it should resolve the switch wearing out faster. And like I said, maybe a little dab of grease on there to help it, so that way it doesn't tear in and catch and wear out the end of the sensor. Anyhow,